at Backlash, we kick off the show in style with a WWE Men's Intercontinental Championship match between Penta and Dominic Mysterio. And of course, he's not alone, as the rest of Judgment Day are at ringside. Though before the match can even begin, the referee ejects all members of Judgment Day. They're all furious, but they have to abide by what he says, as they all make their way to the back. So now, the match is officially underway, and it's all things Penta in the early going. He's absolutely dominating the Intercontinental Champion, although all it takes is one moment to bring Dom back into the match, as with him on the outside, he's quickly able to hurl the challenger into the ring post. And now, the title match shifts completely in the champ's favour, as it's now him who's in control. But no matter what he does, Dom just can't seem to keep the man with zero fear down for a 3 count. And with this, he's growing more and more desperate to pick up the win. Yet as he looks for potentially the killing blow, Penta is able to counter as he now fights back. But as he looks for a super kick, Dominic moves, which leads to the referee getting knocked out. And as quick as the flash, Finn Balor comes out of nowhere, though he stops. And he hesitates on what to do, although eventually he makes his choice as he nails a shotgun dropkick onto Penta before fading into the darkness, which allows for Dominic to nail another frog splash onto the challenger to pick up the win and retain the Intercontinental Championship. Dom's reign continues, yet even in victory, a dark cloud hangs over the big time win. But regardless, what's next? Well, Becky Lynch is looking to wrest the Women's Intercontinental Championship away from the inaugural champ Lyra Valkyria. But who will stand tall? Well, unlike the opener, this starts off rather technical, with both women trying to one-up each other in this department. But Becky's experience is proving to overwhelm Lyra, although she won't stay down without a good fight, which is proven when both women decide to just duel. Although Becky once again overwhelms her in this department too, and with this, she attempts a manhandle slam, although this gets blocked, so Lyra looks for her finishing move too, but this too gets blocked all the same. So the match rages on, with every move of Lyra's having an immediate response by Big Time Bex, which doesn't change in the closing stages of the match, as Becky wrenches Lyra's arm with the disarmer with no remorse in sight. Yet the Burn Lady won't give up, so she pushes Becky off of her before layering into her with seemingly every strike under the sun. And Big Time Bex does get eventually dropped to the outside, although Lyra can't connect the subsequent dive, as Becky moves out of harm's way before throwing her back into the ring as she once again goes back to the arm. But Lyra still won't quit, as she counters before nailing a big exploder suplex. But she isn't done with her, so she drags the lifeless corpse to her feet as she attempts one more Nightwing, though as she picks her up, Becky's legs completely wipe out the referee. Yet she fights out of the finishing move, as Becky then looks for a manhandle slam, but just like Becky just did, Lyra fights out of that. Although before she could do anything else to the challenger, someone pulls Becky Lynch out of the ring. And of course, the cause of this is the woman who the man took out back at WrestleMania 41. Bayley is back in WWE, and she makes an immediate statement as she nails a rose plant on the outside before turning her attention to the ring and more specifically, Lyra Valkyria. They could have been tag team champions if it wasn't for Becky Lynch. Maybe in another lifetime, as Bayley also attacks Lyra. But why? Well, after a rose plant, Bayley then decides to debut a new finisher, as she nails a butterfly lung blower before leaving the corpses behind. There's so many questions unanswered, and finally, with the referee back up, Becky Lynch starts to stir. Lyra is still out cold, and the man takes full advantage of this as she locks in another armbar. And with nowhere left to go, with no more fight left, Lyra Valkyria passes out. Becky Lynch has won, and it's all thanks to the woman she took out back at WrestleMania. And no one knows why the role model took out both women, and we're gonna have to wait and see, as the closing shot is Becky Lynch holding Women's Intercontinental Championship over a lifeless Lyra Valkyria. And the lifelessness will more than likely continue by the end of the big meaty fatal 4-way match between Damian Priest, LA Knight, Drew McIntyre and Jacob Fatu, who will walk out of Backlash as the United States Champion. Well, naturally, the match itself is utter carnage. There's bodies flying, crashing, burning, seemingly anywhere and everywhere. Drew even nails a big leg drop off the top rope onto Damian Priest, which gets him a close 2 count. But that's not all, as he applies a crossface, which forces Jacob Fatu to break up the submission. Although later on in the match, Fatu manages to counter Knight and back body drop him on top of McIntyre. But Priest is still standing, as he even grabs a kendo stick, which doesn't end well for him, as Fatu manages to take him down. Although Priest gets his lick back by nailing himself with a chokeslam, but by the time he can go to the cover, Drew is able to break up the pin. All 4 men are desperate to become champion, but only one can. And after this fast-paced mayhem, we find out that it won't be Damian Priest, as he gets nailed by a BFT onto the concrete floor. Although before Knight can take advantage of this, Jacob Fatu comes out of nowhere and hurls Knight into seemingly anything and everything. And once he puts him back into the ring, Solo Sikoa asks to deliver the final blow on Knight. He wants to put the nail in the coffin of the Megastar's run, and Jacob reluctantly agrees. Although as Solo is about to nail a spike, Knight moves, which leads to Jacob Fatu being inadvertently clocked by the move. He's stunned, and after taking out Solo, Knight connects another blow at force trauma, but he can't capitalize, as Drew comes out of nowhere and blasts LA Knight with a Claymore kick to pick up the win, and more importantly, the United States Championship. And this means that Drew is now officially a Grand Slam champion, and it's all thanks to Solo Sikoa. Yet Drew doesn't care. He doesn't care what anyone else thinks. Although everybody knows, Jacob Fatu is nowhere near done with that title, nor is he okay with Solo Sikoa. But before the main event, Pat McAfee is looking for vengeance against Gunter, and he instantly sprints at the ring general, although he gets flattened by a humongous chop. Then he looks for a powerbomb, but Pat manages to escape the finishing blow with a few well-timed shots, as the end almost manages to roll him up for the 3. Yet the key word here is almost, as Gunter kicks out and flattens Pat with a humongous clothesline, which sends him out of the ring. And from here, the former world champion sends the commentator onto the hardest part of the ring back first. And to add insult to injury, Gunter powerbombs Pat onto the barricade. His spine must be broken in half, and he just gets absolutely decimated from here. It's getting uncomfortable to watch. Gunter even hits an avalanche half Nelson suplex, but he doesn't go into the cover, as he instead goes for a splash. Yet Pat manages to move. There's hope, as he even connects a Code Red, which almost gets him the biggest win of his career. Although that was seemingly all the gas he had left in the tank, as Gunter nails a vicious lariat before connecting a powerbomb and instantaneously locking in a rear naked choke. And just like that, Gunter has won. But the win isn't enough for him, as he looks for another powerbomb. But before he can hit it, he gets interrupted by what he once called his favourite wrestler. Goldberg is here, and he confronts the man who insulted him all the way back at Bad Blood, and Gunter decides to break the ice with a chop, which gets immediately responded to by a spear, but he can't quite manage to hit the jackhammer, as Gunter manages to escape and nail a chop block alongside a powerbomb. And with that, Gunter completely and utterly stands tall. Although now, it's time for the main event of the evening, and it's time for one more match, not just for the show, but between two titans going at it one last time, as it's time for John Cena versus Randy Orton. And the match starts off with a ton of energy, as John Cena attempts an A out of nowhere, which gets blocked, with Randy retaliating by looking for an RKO, which also doesn't work. And naturally, from here, there's a lengthy feeling out process between the two titans. Yet from here, it's time for Vintage Cena, as he nails 3 out of his 5 moves of doom, but as he looks for the 5-knuckle shuffle, Orton gets his leg up before sending the champ to the outside. And the Viper gives chase, as he then dives on the Big Match John before sending him into the barricade. Although he can't hold control for long, as Cena is able to launch Orton into the steel steps before attempting to get a count-out win. But that doesn't work, so Cena continues to work over the challenger. That is, until he gets an idea, as he decides to go to the top rope and dive on Orton, although the Apex Predator manages to catch him and plant him down with a powerbomb. And now, it's Vintage Randy Orton offense time, as with 2 clotheslines and a scoop slam, we all know what comes next, as Randy nails a spike DDT. And there's only one more ingredient left for this Viper Pie, the RKO. But he can't connect it, as Cena blocks it before nailing it AA. Yet somehow, someway, Orton finds a way to kick out at 2. Cena can't believe it. He thought he had the match won, so he looks for another, but this turns out to be a grave mistake, as Orton manages to turn it into an RKO out of nowhere. Yet he isn't done, as he goes into the corner. He wants the punt, and eventually he looks for it, although Cena manages to dodge the fail blow before connecting another AA. But he wants to add an exclamation point to his victory, as he locks in a STFU. Randy has nowhere to go, but he refuses to quit. He won't give up. So Cena forces him to, as he instantly is able to transition into another AA to pick up the win and retain the WWE Championship. Randy Orton was so close, yet so far, as in the end, the show closes with Big Match John winning another big match. Who the hell can stop him? Well, we're just gonna have to wait and see. As if you like this story, I think this might interest you.